Alright, in this video we are going to see how to create this bookmark app. As you see, these are the list of links. If I click on Instagram, it will go to the Instagram page. If I click on YouTube, it will go to the YouTube. Now the feature of this page is if you refresh this, the bookmarks are going to same. Let me add this and show you. Let's add MySpace. And click on submit. You see it is added below. Let me close this, and even if I refresh, even if I close this tab and start again, the links are going to be there. It is because of this local storage, the feature from Chrome. We are going to see how to add this. Now as you see, I have added just the MySpace and the logo came by itself, the same. Let me remove this Flipkart, Instagram, Facebook. Let me add the new link, Meta, and you will see the logo will also be added. You see, logo is also added. Now the validation is also added. Sorry for that. In case if you add which is not URL, it is going to say enter a valid URL. So these are the features we are going to see, or how to create this with JavaScript. Now we are going to create this with the help of HTML, CSS and JavaScript, with no library or no framework like Bootstrap, from scratch. In case if you are only interested in learning JavaScript, I'll leave the timestamp in the description. Just start from there. And in case if you want to learn HTML, CSS and want to see how to create these models and all, start along with me. I'll leave the source code of this project as well as the project which I am going to demonstrate right now by creating it in front of you will also be there in the description. Fine, let's get started. To start, we need 3 files. Let's start with HTML. We'll save this as demo.html, and then we have demo.css. Then we need to create a script file, demo.js. Let's start by creating the template, exclamatory tab. Let's link the CSS, demo.css. let's link the style sheet, script, demo.js. Now I need to add font awesome icon as well. Let me just copy paste the CDN which I have used on the demo. Just copy paste it. Cool. Now we need a button. As you see, we have a button over here. Let's create a button. Add bookmark, and let's give the ID. And then let's create a container. We can also give ID as item holder. Now these are items, so let's create the first item, and let's create this with close class. We need a font awesome icon. We'll add font awesome icon in a minute. And then we have we have a name, and with image, then the name which is surrounded inside anchor tag, and that's it for the HTML. Just copy paste it several times. Before copy pasting, let me add the font awesome icons. You see, this is the add bookmark icon. Let me just add this, and let's add the close which is trash. Okay, it is going to come from the JavaScript. Let me pick that for you from the JavaScript. Here it's the trash. Let's open this, paste it. The file name is demo.html. Enter, it will open. Now this is how it looks for now. Let's just name this as UI monk. This is how it looks. And if we let me show you how to add the favicon as well. So this is going to come from the URL, this URL. Now if you see s3 googleusercontent.com s2/favicon, and you have to pass the name of the link. Let me share the facebook.com. you will get the Facebook icon. Let's add youtube.com and you will get the YouTube icon. It's the favicon. So let me just place this as an image. Now if I refresh, this is how it looks. Great. Now let's start designing it. Let's import a font called Oswald. It's a Google font. Let me pick this. So this is font awesome Google font Oswald, and for all the element I have added for Oswald font. Fine. Now we have a button. Let's get the button. It's an ID. We have to make this at the center. So to have this at the center, you have to choose a container. Let's choose a container. Body is a container here. Display, flex, align items, center, justify content, center, flex direction, column, so that it becomes one below the other. Let's give the background color as well. Cool. Now let's start designing the font size of 30 pixels so that it looks a little bigger. Padding 10 pixels on all sides. Background color, let's make this red. Cool. Now let's start designing the item. Width of, we can make width of 300 pixel, height of 150 pixel, background color as white. Refresh it. This is how it looks. It looks too big. We can make this shorter by making this 100 pixel. Let me copy this some more time. The item, let's make this 4 times or 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. Refresh it. This is how it looks. Now we have to choose a container or item holder. Let's make this display, flex. Now you see it will be side by side. Let's make this flex wrap so that it adjusts itself with the width of the container. Let's add margin top of 50 pixel, margin left or margin right. Let's make this margin left of 30 pixel. Cool. Now we have to get into the item. Inside the item we have two direct child. The first one is the close button and the second one is the name div. So display, flex. Now you see side by side. We want flex direction as column, one below the other. Now at the center, align item center, justify content center. Cool. Let's pick the close class which is inside item. Actually it is remove, not close, let it be. Position absolute top 10%, left right of 10%. Now let's see how does this looks. It's over here. We have to get the container and give position relative, so that now you got the idea. So you, in order to use position absolute, you have to give its parent position relative. Now let's make this close, font size 15 pixel, pixel. Cool. We can make this color as red, and cursor you got it. Now let's design the name. Inside the name we have anchor tag, font size 30 pixel, text decoration none. Let's choose an image inside name class, width of 50 pixel, height of 50 pixel. It seems too big, we can make this 30 and 30, and margin right 10 pixel, vertical align sub. Cool, almost we have completed it. If you want, you can change the color as well for the anchor tag, black. Cool. Alright, now let's work on the model. As you see, if I click on add bookmark, it is going to open a model. So let's start creating it. So first we need the overlay. You see, even after I click outside the model, it is going to close. It is also a feature which we are going to cover in this video. Fine. Now let's create a model container. Inside the model container we are going to have this X icon. Let's get this, place it over here, and it's close model, and then the other, and then the model div with class show model. So this show model will act as hide and show with the help of JavaScript. By default we are not going to add the show model, so when I click on the button, this show model will be added to the, we have to make this available here. Cool. Now we need to add form. Before form, let me add a heading to it, and then form with ID model form. We don't need action, we'll work on JavaScript. The first one, we need form group. We are going to create a class. This will surround label and input field, input type text, ID, website name, just copy paste it one more time. This time it's going to be website URL. One more time it's going to be submit button. Input type submit, value we can make the value as create or add bookmark. Now let me see. So this is how it looks. We have to style this so that it covers the entire screen. I hope we have completed it. This is the minimum lines that we need to add. Let's start working on the CSS. So the ID of the container, display fixed, or we can make display flex, align items center, justify content center so that it will come at the center. Now we can make this position fixed, top of 0, left of 0, height width of 100, vertical viewport width, and height 100 viewport height. Refresh it. Cool, you got it. Now let's give the background color with opacity RGB. 0 is the absence of color with 0.5. Let's add 0.9. Now you got it. Now inside this we have a model. We need to give width of 500 pixel, height of 300 pixel, and background color white. Cool, I can make this black as well. Now whatever is there inside the model container, let's make this display flex so that it comes extremely at the center, and I want the color to be white. And don't forget, flex direction need to be column. Now let's get the form group the same way. Display flex, justify content, align item, flex direction column. So refresh it. It's not working. I think it's the spelling mistake. Cool. Now we just need to give width to it, width of 90%. Get the input field inside it, give the width, to both of them. Refresh it. So get into the inspect and let's check why it's not taking the full width. It's the form which is stopping it. Give the width of 100%. Now you got it. We can add padding to the input field as 10 pixel on all sides, and we can give font size of 20 pixel. Just too big, we don't want that. Let's add margin to the form group, 10 pixel. Cool. We can make this H3. H3 comes under this container, model container. Font size 40 pixel. Well, that's fine. Let's make the margin top for the form group little more. To adjust it, we have to give the height as well. Cool. Now let's check. Let's change the color of the model container as, let's give this 333 and let's check. Yes, we got it. There seems to be two space. Let me check what is giving that space. The help of inspect. Form group. Okay. We don't need to give this width. It will take full width. Cool. It has come to the center. I think we'll leave it as it is. TH3 seems to be too big. Let me make this 25. Alright. Now again we have close model. Color as red. Let's give position absolute, top of 10%, right of 10%, font size of 30 pixel. Cool. I can make this as 50 as well, depending upon your wish. Now let's give the cursor as pointer. Cool. So I believe that's it. Now get this class and give display flex, and here display none. Refresh it. Get into the container. Here you should see display none is there, and show display class. Has display flex. Let's try to give important to it. Cool. Now it's working. Let me remove this show model. It's gone. Add. It's there. Remove. It's gone. Cool. Now we have to work on the JavaScript. To start with, now let's work on showing the model. Now if I click on this, the model should show up. So for that we have to get all the elements document on the JavaScript with the help of document dot query selector. It could be either ID or it could be class name. Now let's start from the top. Let's get the ID of the button first. Copy, paste. Then let's get the container holder. We don't need this item and all. Let's pick the model container. Then we have close model class. Once I click on the close model, it should go away. It's a class, so we need to add period. Then the form, get the form, and then we have input field, to input field, name and URL. And almost that's it. Now when I click on the button, dot add event listener, click. When I click on this, I want a function to get executed, and that function will show model. So what it should do, it should get the model container and class list dot add. It should add the class which I have shown you. The show model. Now when I click on this, I want this function to get called. Let's see. Refresh, click on add bookmark, and it is called. Great, it is working. Now the same thing when I click on close model, I want to remove the class, added class. Simply remove it. Again, let's try. Show bookmark, close it, show, close it, show. Again, now if I click outside of the model, it should again close it. So how we are going to do it? Window dot add event listener. It is click. We need to get the target. Console.log e.target will show where we have clicked. Let me get into the inspect. Click on console. Now if I click outside, you should see this is coming up. So we need to pick this. You see, if e.target.id. Now if I refresh it, click outside, now we are getting only the ID. So with the help of if condition, if e.target.id is equal to this one, then just remove the added class. Simple as that. Open, click on X, it will be closed. Great. Open, click on model, it is not going to get closed. Click outside of model, it will be closed. Great. And now we are going to see how to add the validation. So for the validation part, we have to get into the form. Here we have form. We are going to add a submit listener dot add event listener, and as you know, the form has the event called submit. So when I click on submit, what should happen? I should get the form values. So this is website name dot value. Let's store it into input field comma or underscore. The same way the URL, as you know, these are coming from the input field. So if I show you, this is the ID which I got it, and then I am taking it from the JavaScript, taking it as a variable. Now again I'm storing it as a variable, Now as you know, when I click on submit, the page will refresh. To stop the refresh, we need to add e dot prevent default. So this is the episode number 57. I don't want to explain this again and again on every video. Cool. Now we want to validate this. So what I need is, I need to enter this and enter this test.com. So when I click on add bookmark, what should happen is it need to prepend itself like http colon slash slash. It need to be prepend this text to the URL. This can be either the user adds it or the JavaScript adds it. Let's make this JavaScript. If it does not, if this variable does not includes the http colon slash slash and the same, this time it's https. If this does not have http, then we need to make this need to get this and add http colon inside the backtick, then template literal, just pass this variable inside this and we'll make this new hyphen new variable. Let's try this console.log. So what should happen when I type this without, let's get into console. When I type this without https, it should add http colon then this text and show it in the console here. Click here and yes, you got it. Oh, that means it is working. Cool. So let's try to add this, copy it, refresh again. This time let's try this with https. If it already has http, then this won't be added any name. If it already has http, then it would be simply http, not https. But there's an error, it is not defined. It says it is not defined. So let's define this. Let the same place anything. Cool. Refresh it, type anything, enter facebook.com and http is adding as a prepend value. Now what we need to do is we need to validate this. Validate form field. We need to pass the name and the URL. Cool. And here this need to be executed only if this is true. If this is not true, then return false. So why returning false? Because if this return false, then whatever I type here, the code, JavaScript code, should not get executed. That's the reason. Now this form field is either going to return true or false. Fine. Now let's define this. we'll make this simple URL and name. Now if name is blank or URL is blank, then alert fill both fields. Let's try it. Click on submit, fill both fields. Cool, that's working. First validation is done. Now let's validate with the URL. Validate URL regex javascript. So you will get the stack overflow. Get into the stack overflow. We need to just find the regular expression which is responsible for the URL. So this seems to be alright. Simple and straightforward. So previously I picked this from here. Just copy this, paste it here, define the regex object, then try to match it. This time it's URL. If URL matches with the regular expression, if URL does not match with the regular expression, then say enter valid URL. Let's try it and return false. Don't forget to return false on this line as well. Once these are successful, then return true. So if we return trues, then whatever we write after the line which will be executed. Now let's try by inserting non-valid URL. Enter a valid URL. So let's try it .com, and now I'm not getting that error. So if I make a space and click on add bookmark, space dot something, fill both field. Okay, filling both field, enter a valid URL. Fine, that seems to be working. We have added this URL validation as well. Once the validation part is done, we need to store this into the local storage. To store this into local storage, we have to create an array. Let bookmark array. Let's define a bookmark array, and we need to create an object, bookmark object. Its name and then URL. The name is simply the input field value and the URL is a new value. Cool, need to push this object to the array. Pushing this object to the array. Now on each submit we will be creating an object, and that object will be added to the array. So just to give you an example, console.log. Let me see, do I have any other console? We don't have. Refresh it. Add vishal.com, add bookmark, then uimonk.com, click on add. Now you can see this will have 3. Let's try to make this one more time. fp.com, click on add. Now you see we have 4. Now we need to add this array to the local storage. So local storage dot set item, which will accept a key. So the key is going to be bookmark, and the value we need to send this as a string. So json dot stringify will convert the array to string. So once this is done, now let me show you. Get into the application, local storage, then click on file. Already there is there. Let me delete this because it is this one. Refresh it again. Now you see there is no local storage. Click on add. Let's type vishal.com. Click on add. Now you see Vishal and vishal.com is added. If I click here, you will see Vishal has come up. Delete. Click once. So actually, yeah, you got it. Cool. If you try to make this again, uimonk.com, click on again, uimonk.com is added. The same way we want to populate this when the page is loaded. So for that, fetch from local storage. So call this each time on submit, and on page load also it need to be called. So on page load also it is calling because we need to create this. So let's create this function. So what I'm going to do is, on page load I want to get all the values from the local storage and append it into the HTML. So for that, first we need to get all the values from the local storage. So I'm checking if local storage dot get item. So we have passed the key as a bookmark. If you see the application, you see this is the key. So if the bookmark exists, then get the bookmark and convert it from string to array again and store it into the empty array on page load. So if there is no value on the array, then define it. Duplicate value, name, and we have URL. So let me give my channel name uimonk. uimonk.com. Instead of uimonk.com, let me make this youtube.com. Cool. Once this is done, after getting the value on page load, then again we have to send this to the local storage. Refresh it. Let's try something. Click on add. It is added, but this is not getting removed. So get the form and reset it. Now any value, add, and you see it is gone and Gmail is added. And on page refresh also it is going to remain same. Now what we need to do is, we need to build the DOM from the local storage. So build a DOM function. Let's define the build DOM function. Now while building DOM, we need to get the value from the array. So this is the array which already has. If you remember, if there is no value, then the duplicate value will be filled. So fetch using for each. Individual value can be received. Destructure it. Name comma URL equal to. Now you have destructured this. Get the container, not the model container, but item holder dot inner HTML plus equal to backticks. Paste the HTML, get into the demo.html, just get only the item, copy the whole and paste it. In place of name, we need to make this name show up. The same way, in place of URL, show the URL. Again over here as well, just to get the values. Once this is done, let me check whether everything is calling perfectly. If this works, then we should get the value populated. Yes, we got the value populated. Now we just have to remove the static values. Save this and refresh again. Now you see the value Gmail. Let me try to add Facebook. Facebook.com, click on add. Facebook is added, but you see it is getting repeated. So to avoid the repetition, inner.html on while calling this function, we have to make this, we need to clear the items. Facebook is added. Now Instagram.com, click on add bookmark. Instagram is added. Cool. Now the next thing what we need to do is, when I click on this delete button, this delete button should delete the value from the local storage as well. So for that we need to add a click function on click. So here delete bookmark and pass the URL as a string. Now let's define this. We are getting URL. Now again we need to run for each on the local storage or the array. Now from the array we need to match the value. It's very similar with this. We have to run for each again. Now we need index as well, bookmark and index. If bookmark with URL matches with our URL, then we need to call the array, then call the splice function. We need to remove on this index only one value, and then why is this showing this? Let me check. Cool, there was some round bracket, extra round bracket. Now we just have to see, okay, it's URL and name. Now we need to update the local storage. After removing this, and then we need to update the DOM as well. Refresh it. Let's remove this, remove this, remove. Now you can see it is also removing from here as well. Let's try to add myspace dot com. Click on add. MySpace is added with the icon. Cool. I think we have completed our work. Let me add one more thing. Twitter.com. Click on add. What else? Meta.com. Add youtube.com. Cool. Now we are able to add this. Now on each refresh it is going to stay there. You see, I'm closing this and opening it on new tab. It is going to stay as it is. If I remove meta and close this, open again, meta is gone. Cool. Thank you so much for listening.